Hi, this is Barbara Sanders, and it is July 29th, 2026. And this is Soul Speak, part of my YouTube channel, Sacred Metamorphoses. And if you want to learn more about me, you can go to sacred-transformation.com to find out more about me. I'm in Nashville, Tennessee. And to give you a little background, I've been a writer most of my life. I've been a psychotherapist most of my life too, but a writer. And I've always heard things come to me or through me, words, phrases. And when that would happen, I would sometimes write them down and then just start writing and explore whatever these words or phrases were. Sometimes I would do some research on those words or phrases and then write something. But I've been mostly a writer, and it's very easy and fluid for me to write. Well, all of a sudden, I've been hearing suggestions like maybe I don't have to write it and maybe I can speak it. And then I did a process with Tammy Roth called the Pythia process. That's Pythia. She's the Oracle of Delphi. And it's a meditative process where back in time, in that old time, she would be in a church of some sort and open her legs as she sat down and smelled the vapors coming out of a cracked or broken rock. And she would start talking in words, gibberish. She maybe sang, she maybe used sounds that we don't know about. And I know some people who do that kind of thing. In fact, my father, who was an Episcopalian priest in the Deep South in the 1960s, 70s, and onwards, um, I remember when he started, I think I was a teenager, it might have been in Mobile, Alabama. He was going to some groups where people were speaking in tongues. And at the time, I thought that was funny and interesting, but didn't think much about it, but he was intrigued. So maybe the Oracle of Delphi, Pythia, spoke in tongues also. And as we know here in Tennessee, there's snake handlers and all sorts of types of religions. I'm not bound to nor committed to any one religion myself. I grew up as an Episcopalian child and have dabbled in all sorts of Eastern and Western religions and theological frameworks, and have only probably in the last 10, 15 years come into my own beliefs about my spirituality and growing and exploring my spirituality in ways that don't really require or need labels. So all that's a prelude to saying that I heard this phrase yesterday, I think, and then I heard it again today. So I'm going to try to just speak about it. And gibberish may come out. I doubt it. I'm pretty much a wordsmith. But I have thought about writing about it in the last day since I heard the phrase. And I thought, yeah, I could do that. And that would be fun because I love to write. I just go into a space, just stuff comes out of me and it's great. But I kept saying to myself, no, let's do something different with this. Let's see if I can just sort of breathe in those vapors from the broken rocks underneath my building and contact spirit spirit for myself. Excuse me. Spirit, which I think of as all around us, everywhere, all the time. And we can tap into it or get accessibility to it. And I also think of connecting to Mother Earth, and I'm losing my voice, it's funny. Connecting to Mother Earth through all sorts of channels and root systems and minerals and crystals and meditations guided by people like David Clements and some other people I know very well who connect us not only with the cosmos and the galactic spaces above us, around us, in us, and then with our hearts, and then connecting that to Mother Earth and her core. So I won't go into that meditation too much right now, but I will try to clear my voice a little bit. So I should speak prayers or ask for blessings from whatever spirit guides there are out there, gods, goddesses, angels, resources, spiritual resources, to help me speak through this because there's some allergy stuff going on. But on the other hand, that's not really what I want to pray for. I want to uh, dive into this phrase and see what it means to me and share that with you if it comes out somewhat okay. So here I go. The phrase is eternal. Now I'm forgetting it. Eternal. That is so funny. Oh, I know what it is. Eternal emptiness. Eternal emptiness. And right away, I thought, well, I could go look up Buddhist and Hinduist and Taoist kinds of philosophies and find there's some meaning to emptiness in those types of religions and theoretical frameworks. But I didn't do that. I've done oracle cards for years, and I've come up with the void and emptiness sometimes when I pick cards like that. But I really got intrigued with this eternal emptiness today. And as I did a meditation this morning, I didn't hear words. All I could feel was this like heaviness, but not bad heaviness. It felt like rootedness to Mother Earth, groundedness, centeredness, and just a relaxation and relief. Like if there's really eternal emptiness, if that's something I can access or touch upon, that feeling I got felt so delicious. I would say it felt like peace to me, whatever that is. And I've only in the last several years done enough energy healing, and I'm still doing energy healing in all sorts of ways, alternative practices and other ways to help this body of mine at 73 notice that it can feel peaceful. I think that much of my life I ran on adrenaline, and I was very competent and very high functioning and got everything done and took care of other people and was a psychotherapist and ran my own business and all that other stuff. And I did it, I think, rather well, though I had no idea at the expense, or not even expense to me, the cost to me, but the expense to my body by running on this adrenaline charge. Which I think was a coping skill or defense of mine. Certainly had fears and anxieties about scarcity and all the conditioning I've been through in this patriarchy, which is not just about men, but capitalism and needing to make money and wanting to feel secure and safe in all sorts of ways, relationally, emotionally, spiritually, and financially. All that can rev one up. Especially if they already have an anxiety gene in there somewhere, to try to perform really well. And I learned that way back in when I was little in schools and before schools, to work really hard and do as well as I could. And I felt rewarded by that, either by teachers or grades or family. I don't know how, but I felt internally also rewarded by that, like accepting a challenge and being able to do this challenge and learning how to do it and doing it better and better and better. I was a band kid, so I wasn't a team sports person, but I was a majorette also, if you can believe that. And, had to pass auditions and tests to be a majorette and march in the Mardi Gras parades and things like that in high school. And I always wanted to do my best, but I often felt not totally naturally gifted for some of the things that I was testing myself to do or competing with myself or others to do. And there's a lot about competition I'll probably need to speak about later. Uh, anyway, I won't speak about that right now. But anyway, so what I'm getting at then is today and yesterday when I felt the phrase eternal emptiness, it felt like relief. Like if I'm empty, I don't have to carry anything for anybody else. I don't have to feel overloaded in my shoulders or my head, stressed, feeling pressure. Eternal emptiness to me means always and everywhere and all the time, which as a human being, I don't really know about very well because I know human being lives are time limited, but I've also done so many explorations into other theologies and goddess stuff and just all kinds of theologies that I can say that I do believe energy is eternal. Uh, Not that when we die, we are still ourselves and we go to some other place like a heaven, hell, or purgatory. Not like that, but that there's energy and that energy might exist, continue to exist from lives before this life that I'm in now, lives after this life, reincarnation, all that always sort of appealed to me, probably as a comfort, but not heaven and hell and purgatory. Those never really were my background nor my current thinking about how people get separated at death or that people who kill themselves don't go to the same place or same energy spaces that the rest of us go. I grew up in a what we called a low church, Episcopal church, which was not highly Anglican. And I grew up in Mississippi in the Deep South in the 1960s. And so civil rights and social action were always a part of my family's life and has been a part of mine. So I wanted to be the best human being I could be, which meant sometimes taking on too many commitments, which meant working too hard. But I didn't know it was working too hard. I just knew it was good to make money, and I felt safer and secure or more secure when I knew my bank account looked okay. Um, so eternal emptiness, back to that. The relief, the heaviness that is, again, not a bad heaviness, but a grounded and centeredness. The relief of like shaking my shoulders and letting go of whatever the worries are of the day. I have been someone you could call a worry wart or someone worried about the world, worried about my family, worried about friends, anxious about what's going to happen to this crazy economy and this administration in the United States at this point. And I've learned ways to cushion myself from some of that because that is very traumatizing to anybody who has some extra sensitivity to them, to listen to all the news channels or read even. I read a lot of the news, but it's traumatizing. And we could go downhill down that slippery slope so fast. And I have many friends and colleagues and clients who have gone through that, and I did too in the past. We can live a really terrible hell on earth if we don't protect ourselves in some ways and really focus on what feeds us, what nurtures us and nourishes us, rather than all the, I would say, crap and corruption and chaos and trouble and danger and violence in this world. If I only focus on those things, I can feel pretty awful. And not to deny them or avoid them or not acknowledge them, but to say, yes, they're there and I'll do my part in whatever I can do to change them. I've been a big social activist in the past, or I called it sacred activism too at one point. But there's so much I can do as one human being. I can join groups and communities of people who at grassroots are changing the world. And I like that idea. But when it comes down to living my life daily, I choose to skim over some things and to not put a high gloss on them or to put rose-colored glasses on. I don't do any of that. But I just know I need to keep some of that at bay so I can live my best life. And in that, I can be a better service to anyone else around me as a good person, a kind and compassionate and loving person. If I get wallowing into all that terrible stuff around us, I get irritable, I get depressed, I get even more anxious. And so back to how I live with eternal emptiness. I've never been able to empty out myself very well. David Clements has some great meditations where he takes you in a process of deep meditation and then talks about other beings, other spiritual resources that are available to us, almost lifting off these templates we have, lifting off this conditioning that we have to respond and react to the worlds we've grown up in, which is for protection and safety and security. We react in certain ways that hopefully defend ourselves and help us live and survive in the world. But I have, in the last several years, wanted to go further than that and not just survive, but thrive, for myself, maybe teaching others how to thrive given their whatever unique situations they're in. I still do work with some clients, and I find great satisfaction in whatever I learn, passing that on somehow in my whole repertoire of skills and personality and style to help others find ways that they can be more satisfied in life, less distressed in life, and more comfortable inside their bodies, and even feel and experience joy and ecstasy and bliss at times. And I need to turn off my ringer on my phone. I was waiting for something and now it's off. Let me start a new chapter, just 1 second. So let me go further with eternal emptiness. Empty to me doesn't feel like hollowed out, scraped out, that any violence has occurred. Emptiness does not feel like that to me. Emptiness feels like going into Mother Earth under the dark, rich, fertile soil and be in the dark. When I'm in the dark, I can sleep better. When I'm in the dark, I can meditate better. The light of day is, I love the sun. I love the light of day. But in order to focus myself more internally and spiritually, it helps me to be somewhat in the dark, closing my eyes, however. So only then can I even imagine the little pinky of my finger emptying out all the stress that life has added up, just continuously over time. I have some arthritis in my hands for all sorts of reasons, not just because of stress. And when I think of emptying out, I don't think of throwing the baby out with the bathwater. I think of continuing to hold and treasure those things that serve me well and hopefully serve the world well. And that's unique to me, right? That I'm the subjective person saying, I think I'll keep these things about me that I treasure and find useful to me and maybe to others. And then to let go of some of the stuff that I either bought into, agreed with subliminally or actively. And all of you who are listening know what those things are for you. I don't need to go into what those things are for me, but when we're children, I really do believe this too, that children's brains aren't fully formed. And when we're children, I'm sorry, I just looked to see if I was recording this. When we're children, our brains aren't fully formed, and therefore we make decisions about ourselves at a very early pre-verbal age, even that whatever's going on around us, a baby, a toddler, a child, thinks of it as related to them because they're still in a merged phase of some sort, not individuated yet. And so if mom or dad or sister or brother are sick or angry or alcoholic and abusive, we as babies and little children take that in, and it must be about us because that's all we know. Our little brains tell us it must be about us. I must have done something bad, been wrong, made a mistake, even if nobody's blaming me for it, right? So it's a hard way to grow up human, but we do grow up that way. And unfortunately, our brains, as there are adults and elderly brains, have continued to believe those things, even if we can't trace back. And you can with maybe lots of therapy and lots of other alternative practices, but it's not even necessary sometimes to trace it back to when did that start that I felt unworthy or unloved or neglected or abused. We could trace it back and find out and analyze everything, or we can just know that's how we feel and how we have experienced life, and that we're still buying into some of those traditions, messages, subliminal, mixed or not, and beliefs that others had around us or that our little tiny baby brains had, that we are not worthy or deserving of goodness in the world. Lots of people have that. Lots of people have other ones that they find as a core belief. I'm not good enough. I'm not smart enough. I'm not pretty enough. I'm not tiny enough or big enough. I'm not powerful enough. All those things. We're not educated enough. I mean, there's always someone better, and that gets into competition too, which again, I'll talk about later. But When I go into eternal emptiness, I'm holding my hands out. When I think of that phrase, it's just delicious to me because I feel like if I can be more emptied out, I can let go of some of those old, rigid, some very solid, rigid beliefs about myself and other people, because the beliefs about myself I have projected onto other people quite well, involuntarily, unconsciously, so that this person who drives me crazy, there are some reasons for that about that person, but it's a lot of reasons about me and my history biologically and evolutionarily and in all sorts of ways. But if I'm more emptied out and not as attached, and I think that's what the Buddhist or Hinduist really wanted to talk about is not being attached, so strongly attached that that's all you know. Like if we're so strongly attached to our families of origin in this life, it's really hard to let go. And that's part of the human development process to start letting go as we get to be teenagers and adults and letting them have their own lives and letting us have our own lives, mixing with each other, blending and merging at times together, going back and forth with each other, but not being connected at the hip, much like couples do. So when we fall in love, we connect at the hip, our hearts are attached, and we go through lots of phases of coupleships and can't imagine being without that person who means so much to us and who we so deeply connect with. Uh, and we will be very anxious people if we don't also deal with the fact that that person may, through choice or death or disability or whatever, leave us. And then here we are to be with ourselves. We can't always depend on another human being to be there for us. And I'm not talking about just being uber independent and self-sufficient, but I did grow up that way, believing that would be good to be self-sufficient and not have to depend on other people because other people can hurt me if I'm attached to them and the outcomes of our relationship. I'm very attached to the outcome, and I did all sorts of pleasing of people. I grew up being a pleaser and knowing how to get really good rewards from my environment. Because if you please other people, it doesn't always work, but it's really a way you can get rewarded and reinforced for being such a nice, good person. As we get older, we don't care as much about that, which is a gift for getting older, about getting older. So just let me tell you, as much as your body may change, it's such a gift to not care quite as much about who others think we are or who they believe us to be or how they treat us. And so for me, that eternal emptiness is about flushing some of that out, letting some of that dissolve off of my body with, again, spiritual help, professional help, healing help from all sorts of practices and people and mentors and teachers, so that I can learn to hold on to what is good for me now instead of holding on to what served me well as a teenager or what served me well as a 20-year-old or 50-year-old. That doesn't always necessarily serve me well. And why, when I say that, I'm not talking about being totally self-centered. I'm talking about helping me to be the healthiest person I can be. And I believe partly only if we do that, take good care of ourselves, can we be really good to other people. Because we might be caregivers of other people. We might be codependent on other people and with other people. And I always felt like if someone needed me, that felt really good to me. And so no wonder I became a therapist, because I could be with people and they would be, supported by me, and then they would do their own healing, which is great. And I would feel like, I was getting something out of that because I was facilitating some of that, though I was not changing them. They were changing themselves. So that profession worked really well for me for a very long time. And again, though we project onto people positive and negative, and when we put that on anyone, then when we find out who they really are, they may not match anything about what fiction we told ourselves about them. That's why falling in love is so tricky, or getting a crush. It's like we start out by idealizing the person and believing them to be certain ways, and then live with them for 7 years or 3 years and think, well, you've changed. And no, they didn't change. We just got to know them better. When we're courting or dating, we're putting on our best colors and we're being our best selves. We're trying to be. Some people can't even carry that off. But then as we get to know someone, we find out the deeper, more natural parts of themselves that they weren't even able to tell us about because they might not have known consciously. So only through like being together closely do we find what works for us and we have good connections with people. Or sometimes we realize we don't need to be around them as much, or we need to be more distant or cautious, or we don't need them in our lives. So back to eternal emptiness. I'm not talking about, again, throwing the baby out with the bathwater. I don't throw much in my life out except things. I've gotten good at being able to get rid of things. But people I hang on to, people I respect and love dearly, even if they make me mad or I'm upset and disappointed or feel betrayed by them, I'm going to work to repair that relationship if I have another person on the other side of that who is safe enough and secure enough in themselves and able to work on it with me. So, and that's a real troubling part of working through conflict is some people just aren't able to do that yet, or they don't know how to do that, and professional help can help with that, or they're so dysregulated emotionally that they're not safe for us to do that with. We can't repair a relationship without another person to meet us there and to do that hard work of working through conflict. Okay, I'm going to stop in a few minutes. Eternal emptiness. Okay, one more part then. I think that emptiness or getting rid of, as David Clement says, some of the dross, um, that stuff, getting rid of some of the debris inside us or the things that we've not explored and not acknowledged about ourselves, like how we've hurt other people, how we've felt resentments and judgments about other people. We've got to go through a lot of that stuff and sort out maybe why we did what we did and learn. And it's a longer lesson to learn to forgive ourselves and forgive others. That's a whole other set of talks. But once we can do some of that, then we're not so triggered by our environments. If we could be eternally more empty than we are now, we're not as triggered. We don't take things as personally as we used to, like it's all about me, what your mood is. It's all about me, I'm sure of it. And are you angry with me? I used to ask my husband that, are you angry with me? And he'd say, no, I'm not angry. And I'd say, oh, come on, I think you're angry at me. And turns out minutes later, I would find out I was angry at him for whatever reasons. And so we've got to be careful about assuming all of these beliefs we have about other people and ourselves that may or may not be true, because we can suffer a great deal in this world. And I've suffered, and all of you have suffered a great deal. It's partly based on our believing that all these things happening around us have something to do with us. And sometimes they do, they have direct connection to us. A whole continuum, a spectrum, all the way down to it. They have nothing at all to do with us. And this is about that person or that situation or that crisis or whatever, and doesn't really have much to do with us. But I do believe we want to control things around us to have good lives. And so if I can make up in my head that what your mood is, which is awful, is about me, then maybe I can do something to fix that mood of yours, which is crazy thinking. But that's what I think we do. If I can make changes, which is the only place I can make changes is inside myself, then surely you'll feel better and treat me better. Or anyway, doesn't always work. So when we can get less narcissistic, when we can get less self-centered and believe that everything in the world is so much about us, which sounds kind of corny and tacky, but it's just true. That's how we are as human beings, with growth and development past some of that. But if we can empty ourselves out of those kind of beliefs and thoughts, negative thoughts and judgments and resentments, then we can have a better life. And I'm saying this from someone whose life has gotten so much better over the last several years. And there are all sorts of reasons for that. There's 1,000 variables that go into that. And I can't teach any one person to, if you'll just do that, here's the recipe. If you'll follow this recipe, these 10 steps, you'll feel better too. I would love to have been able to do that, but you can't really do that because every person, excuse me, human being is a unique entity with all of their history, all of their biology, all of their genetics. And nobody can really just write a self-help book, or they can, and they sell well. but to tell someone else what's going to work for them. That's why I enjoyed being a therapist, is because in therapy, with deep therapy and long-term therapy, we could dive into some of that stuff and explore that person's misunderstandings, understandings, beliefs, strengths and weaknesses to find them help them find ways, excuse me, to live more gently in the world, more softly, and not take it all in as if it's all about them, and find better ways to live and to love and to be good and kind and compassionate to other people. So when I think about eternal emptiness, that's one stage, I think, in the process. And then another stage will be, if we're emptied out enough, I want to just shake it, shed all this stuff that I've carried in here with, in myself with, not shed it all, shed some of it, then there might be empty space, which is maybe like Mother Earth, fertile ground to grow and accept new birth, new life, new lifestyles, new people, new ways of living, new beliefs and feelings that we may never have let ourselves have. Because I think if we're so stuffed up with all of our tragedies and traumas, and have to rigidly hold ourselves together to not get dysregulated, it's really tough to allow the universe, spirit, Mother Earth, whatever you believe as your theology, and all the energies around us, they can't even get in if we don't have an open heart, open pores, open chakras, if you believe in chakras, and a relaxation and restfulness to be able to accept and then to receive from the world, from the universe, from galactic space, from astrology, from other people, from other living beings, like my dog over there who is sleeping and I love her to death. I would be lost without her. So we're all still human beings. We all get attached, detached, get attached. It's not that all of that is wrong or bad, because it's not. It's who we are as mortal human beings. And so give ourselves a break too, to say, I'm just human. That's how I'm made. I am not Jesus. I am not a god or goddess who has maybe no flaws, but is able to be supremely accepted and loved and forgiven. Um, that's part of our business, is how we forgive ourselves. And we'll talk about that more. I'm sure there's more to eternal emptiness, and I might talk about it again, but that's my first set of reactions to that phrase. And I appreciate your listening to this spoken word, soul speak, I'm calling it, because I'm hopeful that some of it will resonate with you, some of it you may identify with, and some of it may throw out because it doesn't pertain to you at all, and that's fine. I'm honored and flattered and glad that anyone is listening, and that you will become creative and let your own rebirth occur also, if you can empty out some of the stresses that you've carried throughout your life, and the beliefs and pressures you carry still. We all have them. It's a never-ending process, and that is not negative. That's joyful to me, that it's a never-ending process. There's still always going to be more to do and to process and to feel and to revise about our thinking and our reactions. We still get into conflict, even if we're living our best lives. It just happens. It's a range of human experience and feelings that comes and goes. And hopefully, when it comes, whatever the feelings are, we can let them more easily flow through us, instead of get trapped and stuck inside us and cemented inside us, that causes us lots of sickness and disease and awful feelings. And maybe we can let some of that go and not just hold on to it. It's not really how I wanted to end, but I'm going to end here, and thank you again for listening. I'll talk to you soon. Bye.